Good evening. It's great to have everyone here. My name is Rob Patterson. I'm the pastor here at New Hope Community Church. And when we were asked if we would host this meeting, I said absolutely. And we just love things like this. And I just wanted to say a couple things. First of all, I have had tons of conversations with tons of people in our community about this issue. And I think it's really cool that we have the opportunity to come to a place, hear some information, ask questions. You know, I know like the whole levy committee, nobody's getting paid money for this. You know, everybody has one vote. And so I think the main purpose is just information so we can get correct information and make informed decisions. And I just want to say one other thing. So here at New Hope on staff, one of our pastors who's sitting back there, I think, Bud, are you the oldest person on staff? Yeah. Well, he was telling me, it's important for context. So our oldest staff member was telling me that when he saw the museum stuff and saw when the newest edition was built, he realized it was 17 years before he was even born. And that was a long time ago. So for whatever that's worth, just you can talk to him about that afterwards. To the Levy Committee, guys, thanks for being here tonight and for being willing to share with us.
So we're not going to go over the agenda. It's going to be up there. Is it going to be up, or are you putting it on, Jeremy?
If you scan this, if you guys want to see the presentation also on your phone, we'll have the slides up, but if you want to scan that, you can also see it a little better on your phone, potentially.
Are we good? Okay. All right. So first of all, we just wanted to bring everyone together tonight. We are, like you said, a group of volunteers. We don't get paid for this. We're just passionate people in the community. I wanted to just, let's all remember that we live in a country that we have all these freedoms, that we could bring something together like this, and that we can all come together and have a cordial conversation. It is September 11th, so in that respect, we just wanted to take a moment of silence. All right, thank you guys. So we just kind of wanted to go over a couple things, and then I'm going to have, my name is Molly, and this is Carrie. She's going to take over for now.
Well, first we want to just welcome you guys here, introduce you to our task force. That way if you see us out in the community or have any additional questions, you know who you can reach out to. So my name is Carrie Reidenball. I grew up in Loudonville, was born here, raised here. I was fourth generation to graduate through our school district, and now I have 3 kids currently in there, class of 2032, 2034, and 2036 coming through, so we're excited for that. We did just do the mapping, and we went through the alumni book and found out that my great-grandmother was in the first class that graduated through the Bud School, so now her great-great-grandkids are also walking those same halls, which has a bit of nostalgia with it, but something that we potentially want to change. So I welcome you guys to our event. Feel free to reach out to us online. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and I believe we're the first TikTok that our planning partners, Garmin and Miller, are here with us today that they've ever experienced. So you can find us on all 3 of those platforms and also reach out to us personally, and we'll introduce the rest of our volunteers here.
Like I said, my name is Molly Kern. I was born and raised here. I did go, I went to school at the Ohio State, let me make sure I say that right, for a couple years. I did return home. I'm married and my husband's here, and I have 2 kids. One is a second-year welding student, and I have a junior in high school. So my kids will be out of the school district before this could even happen. So I don't have a lot of dog in the fight here. I just want you guys to know that I'm doing this because I believe in our community, and I believe that we have a lot of really good people here, and I just want to continue the legacy on. And that's where I come from, because it might be for my future grandkids at some point if I ever have grandchildren in the community. But just wanted you to guys know I was the class of 2000, and I married my high school sweetheart. So we're just big in the community here. I'm on the theater board here, and I'm also on the school foundation. So I just help out with some different things.
Well, Molly, I'm the class of 71, so I was a few years before you. So my name's Roger Stitzline. I'm a local resident here, lived here pretty much all my whole life, except when I was away at college many years ago. And at the young age of 24, the Loudonville Farmers Equity asked me to run the co-op here in town, and I thought, well, I can do that. We'll do that for a few years and see what happens, and that turned into 42 years. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at. We got the young ones here, and I'm in the middle. I said something about rose between two thorns, but they didn't think that was too great. But my wife Connie's in the audience tonight. We have 3 children. They all live in Columbus, Westerville area. We've got 5 grandchildren, age 3 to 30. So they're not going to school here. I wish they were. But we are, my daughter graduated right ahead of Molly in class of 99. So we have no children, no grandchildren in school. I've been asked, why are you doing this? And I said, because I want to give something back to this community that has been very, very good to me. And a lot of people my age didn't come back, and I'm so glad now in working with these young people here. We've got a lot of good young people, and they move back here because they can do some remote work, that type of thing. So that's why I'm doing this. We need to do something. This is my 3rd levy that I've been involved for, and I hope 3rd time's a charm. So, but yeah, we are here. These people have been answering lots and lots and lots of questions, and I'm kind of steering things a little bit. And I told them, I said, halftime in this game is September 15th, so we got to don't burn ourselves out for the second half here. But thank you, everyone, for coming and try to make an informed decision. And we respect your decisions. Thank you.
So we're the 3 co-chairs, and then we also have Kara Armstrong. She's our treasurer. Do you want to come up?
Hi, I'm Kara Armstrong. I've lived in the area for about 10 years now. I married Matt Armstrong, who was a graduate of Loudonville in 2007. We met in college. I'm from Pennsylvania. We went to Grove City College in Pennsylvania and met on the swim team. And we have 2 young kids. We have a 5-year-old who's in her 2nd year of preschool at McMullen and loving it. And we have a 3-year-old who is an up-and-coming Redbird also.
Thank you. And then we have Jordan Lance. He's our fundraising guy.
Yeah, I bring the money. So people have asked, where we get the money for the signs and things like that. Those are all through private donations, and we bring those together into our PAC. We're actually a formed PAC, so we take donations. If you guys want to contribute to the cause, we're happy to accept any donations. It does cost money to run the campaign. But yeah, I'm Jordan. I grew up here. I also went to Ohio State. Molly, I didn't know that you did. Came back. I married Becky Orchard, who was a phenomenal basketball player, if you remember, from 2010. So she, we're married with 3 kids. My parents also went to Loudonville. I think they're a class of 1985. Yeah. So yeah, I'm here. So I don't want to take too long. I don't know how well I can talk about this, but I'm here both because of my kids, the future. They're 6, 4, and 1 at this point. So one's in 1st grade, one's in preschool at McMullen, and they love it. And I'm here because of my dad too. So for those who don't know, my dad was an administrator and a coach, a teacher at Loudonville for close to 30 years. He just died in May of cancer at the young age of 57. I spent most of my childhood running around with him to practice, watching him coach. He's not somebody that talked a lot about what it meant to live a good life. He just showed people. And the thing that he taught me is that every kid matters, no matter what their household situation is, no matter what they're going through, and every parent matters just the same. So he instilled in me from a young age that just education is super important. It's the foundation of a community. And that's why I'm here. That's why I am supporting this levy.
We'd like to point out Garmin Miller representatives are here. So if we reference to them, they are our representatives, they're our planning partner through this process. So if there's something that we maybe don't know, they can help us out. So just wanted to introduce them so that you know who they are. We have Monica, Tim, and Doug here with us, and if we reference to them, they're legitimate. We didn't pay them to be here to sway anything. They just know things. We're going to go over the purpose of this meeting. Really, all of us, we've talked as a group a bunch of times of what do we want to do being on this levy committee, and it really is about just making sure that everyone out there is making an informed personal vote. So 2 pieces there. We need to make sure that we get accurate information out there so that people can make an informed vote, and it is personal. So we want to be respectful to everyone and their decision-making process. So we have a few things, just a few guidelines. You know, we want to be respectful across tonight. We want to be really mindful of our time. So there's certain things that we may just cut off because it's not something that we can debate. So the ballot is out there. You know, we don't need to debate if it should be on it because it is. So how are we going to vote on it? Or school funding. That's not anything we can change by November. We're having a lot of great conversations, so I don't want to say, hey, don't keep having those conversations, but we're just not going to dive real deep tonight out of respect of everyone's time. Again, no shame, no blame. We want to be really respectful to everyone, and then have an open discussion based around facts. So some of these things are estimates that we'll go through. And there's been some communication on that already out there. Our estimates are procured through experts in our various fields. So if you have any questions on those, you know, don't be hesitant to ask. There are some things that are estimates at this point in the timeline that we're at, but we didn't just throw a dart at a board to guess. We have people in the field, so construction or finance or banking and things like that, that have provided those for us. So just want everybody to know that they came from educated experts in their field. So.
Oh, that's fine. Sure. Okay, so how we got here, it feels like it's been a long time because it has been for us. It may be new for you guys, but we've been on this journey since fall of 22. We were brought together by a Garmin Miller came to us first, and our Superintendent Jen Allerding had emailed a group of people, like around 70 people were in this task force. So we all came together and nothing was ever discussed about a new school the first couple meetings actually that we got together for. It was, let's look to see what we need and let's look at what the process is and what is the stuff that the community really needs in this community. So we went through different activities. We had things on the wall. We had what are really important things to you, and then we had like dollars and coins, and if you have this amount, this big coin is really important. And so we had like all these things up on the wall, and safety and community resources and all the various things that we wanted. We had to kind of prioritize. So we started that all the way back in fall of 22. So then we looked at many different things. We looked at different plans, different things in state costs. We looked at a list of things the state said that we needed to have to upgrade or to be even on par with what the needs were of the district. So Garmin Miller helped us figure out how much that cost. So that's kind of where the journey went, and then all the way to spring of 23, we ended up bringing this to the Board of Education after multiple meetings. And we also had multiple community meetings. A lot of you were at the meetings. We had like Lions Building, we had one at the Perrysville Community Center. So we decided that we would have like a couple options and then people could vote. So the proposal that we have out there is what the community actually came together and they actually voted on this. So just so you guys are aware, this has been something we've been doing for a while and the community's been involved from the beginning. So we'll just go through fall of 23. Like I said, we established, we looked at renovating new buildings. That was something we wanted to look at. We wanted to look at what was other districts doing. So we had a group of people that toured different districts, Shelby, Ayersville, and Lincoln Center. Okay, Liberty Center. So we had staff going there. There were volunteers that went there to look at the different options. It was very interesting, the things that that were available that we had no idea. We learned a lot during that process. You know, there are certain things the state will fund and certain things that the state will not fund. So we have to try to figure out what the needs are and what the wants are and what we have to have. So we did look at different funding options. We looked at like income tax versus property tax versus can we even look at tourism? Can we like do something with that? So those options have all been looked at. We can't, as a state, we cannot actually have like a sales tax for like a certain amount of months a year because it's has to be for the whole county. So we did look at different options. I just want the community to know that it was not like we just said, let's do property tax. That's what we did. We really did research and went through a lot of our resources with Garmin-Miller. So Board of Education, we came in May 13th. We presented the plan that the community members voted on, and that was what was accepted for us to vote on in November. Yeah, there we go. November 5th, yeah. So there we are.
So what the building plan that was decided on is a one-house building from pre-K through 12 on our existing site of our high school. There's some things that went into deciding that, of purchase of land and space available, the funding that the school, that we could get for it. It was recommended by the state due to our enrollment numbers that we're single-housed. We have heard some questions on that. We've asked some school districts who have all their kids in the same school building what their thoughts are. A lot of them had the same fears that we have, and I had them myself. I'm like, oh, I don't want my kindergartner. She already learns enough on the bus right now, or those type of things. And they said it's not like that. You would think that, but it's pretty divided into two wings. So a pre-K through 6, centralized area, so office spaces, cafeteria, things like that, and then 7 through 12. But there's a lot of benefit with being in the same building also. So I know when I was a senior, I signed out of school and I drove across town and I volunteered in one of the classrooms. Nowadays, signing kids out of school and letting them leave campus isn't something that we, really want to be opened up to with a safety purpose, but it was really beneficial to me. I still hang an ornament on my Christmas tree to this day of my little preschooler that was with me. So for those of you that are my Facebook friends, you've seen that every Christmas. I repost it, I swear. But that was, something big in my life, and I think it's a very good thing where we have modeling in the school and opportunities like that. We have a big group of kids in our 5th grade class that has all rated really high on math scores, but right now they can't, they're just stuck in their grade, and are taking their standard classes. And don't get me wrong, they're getting some extra treatment and some more advanced classes, but imagine if they could go down a hallway and receive a more advanced class, things like that. So there are a lot of benefits of being all together. So the building will be on one site. We think that there's probably more benefits than drawbacks of being all together. And it'll be a 71% local share and 29% co-funded by the state. Every year that we've put this up, and Roger can tell us from his years doing it, that funding has gone down. So we're hoping to get this passed this time because we just expect that trend to continue, and that we'll receive less and less as building costs also continue to increase. There are a lot of locally funded initiatives that are in this plan, and just to go over and explain those, these are things that we have built into this levy that are a little bit extra cost. It's 100% locally funded because there may be above and beyond what the state says we'll put money into, but we did all of these very mindfully, where we think that this is truly an investment to spend a little bit of extra money. So I'm gonna try to discuss them pretty quickly, but I think they're really important. So the first one is academic classrooms. This is to maintain a lower student to teacher ratio, especially in our younger grades. If we went by what the state says that we should have, it's a lot higher than we know. Just being volunteers in the school district is what we want. And I think it's really important to have the younger grades, have that lower class size and get, that attention at that age. There's more special education and therapy resource rooms added to this plan. Right now, if you've ever visited one of our elementary schools, you will see students in the hallways or utilizing storage closets to get some therapy. I volunteered when my son was in first grade, and my station was just a reading station, but it was out in the hallway. And there was a poor boy that would always come out to do his speech therapy about 8 feet from us. And the distraction, I try to keep my 3 kids who are reading pretty quiet, but they're 8 feet away from a kid who has to be embarrassed because he doesn't have a private space to do his speech therapy in, and he's in a hallway. So people are walking by, and the poor teacher helping them with focus, and you can't do that in a hallway. So I think that's important to add those spaces in. You'll hear us talk about a cafetorium or an auditoria. We call it both ways. That is a combined cafeteria and auditorium space. We do this because the state will fund a cafeteria, but not an auditorium. And it's really important for us to keep an auditorium space just like like Bud offers right now, and to help encourage our kids with the arts and all of that, and have a space where they can put on their programs and sing and be really happy there. We also included money for physical education to have an additional gym and have a separate boy and girl locker rooms for middle school and high school. So I believe what they'll fund is one locker room, one boy, one girl locker room, and we want to make sure with having all those ages in one school that we have additional locker rooms. There's also some additional things here for making sure that our building is large enough. Automatic calculations are built in for square footage based on our overall square footage of how big corridors should be, doorways, things like that. We want to make sure that we are ADA compliant and have that additional space there. The next page, I'll try to wrap quickly on these LFIs, but I think they're important. We are getting a lot of questions about how do we know that the district won't just come back right away with, we need more funds, we need more funds, we need more funds. And some of the reasons why we think this building will last and delay how long we have to come back to say we need more is because we're putting some very good materials in this building to begin with. So the metal roof and the terrazzo floors in high traffic areas, those are something that we feel is an investment that will last longer and last for the community, for us to not come back and say, hey, we need more maintenance money. Also built into the levy is a 0.5 mil required maintenance piece that will be used to maintain that. It's built in the front end because we know that buildings, new or old, do cost money to maintain. So that is built into it ahead of time. There will be some underground detention that needs done based on our site and that hillside currently that's behind us. A rubberized playground for safety and accessibility. We do have some handicapped children in our school district, and right now you're going up to a playground that either has mulch on it, the rubberized mulch or the wood mulch, or you're going up a big hill, or there's grass. And right now we're not set up really for that. So a rubberized playground would be more compliant for all of our children's needs to be able to play and be a part of things. And it's also more safe, so we're excited to have a rubberized playground added on. There is some additional costs to relocate some of our athletic fields based for building needs. Renovations to the ag and industrial tech spaces, so we are going to keep building 2, but we want to bring it a little bit more up to code and add some of the HVAC and things like that to it. We unfortunately don't have enough ag kids right now to get state funding for it that are enrolled. I think a lot go to the Career Center and things like that, and maybe they'll want to stay here, or go to the Career Center. Either one's fine, but that's why it's a locally funded initiative, is because we don't have enough enrolled, but we still want to support them. And then we will be renovating Building 4 for district offices. Our district administrators don't want anything fancy, they just need a house if the Bud School's gone. And so they'll take over the older Building 4, which has our gym in it, but then we also get to maintain a third gym, which if anybody has elementary kids right now in basketball or wrestling or anything, you know you're practicing the last at night and there's just not enough facilities for it, or we're actually renting facilities and aren't even able to practice in our own space. So that's an important thing to keep and maintain.
You guys can sit down for a few minutes. It's not fun to stand up in front of a group for an hour. Again, my name's Roger Stitzline, and if you look at the next page here, we're on levy overview, dollars and timing. And when we did this 2004 and 2010, it was always not the right time. It's not the right time. Well, it's getting to be the right time. If you look at our local share, $53,500,000, the district has put in a little over $2 million to what they call an 070 account, and that is for building and that type of thing that would help reduce that down from the $55.5 million, which is our share. So the total state share is $15.6 million, and the total cost, which when I first started, that's how can something cost $71 million to build a school? And like they mentioned, in our first two sessions, we just said, there's no way that the voters are gonna pay for a new school. So they put all the numbers together to fix up the old schools and that type of thing. We were gonna add on to the McMullen School. You know, there's no more room to build at the Bud School. You know, can we move some of this over to the high school complex and add on out into the practice fields and stuff like that? Well, when putting this together with the Ohio Facilities Commission and Garmin Miller, it's around $60 million just to renovate all of our existing buildings. And somebody says, well, that's, you know, 3 sets of buildings, but it's 6 buildings. You know, 4 at the high school, 2, you know, the McMullen Bud School, that type of thing, and you got the field house, you got the bus garage, you got a greenhouse that this community put together. That hopefully won't need any renovations for quite a while. But it just boggles my mind that, you know, it's $60 million. And I ran the Loudonville Equity for years, and some of you that have been around a long time, when I first went to work there in 1978, I was embarrassed with the facilities at that end of the town. You guys remember it, people that are older in this room. So my job was to, let's at least start dressing this up. We remodeled every building there multiple times. And we talk about new buildings, $71 million. It's just, it's unfathomable, you know. I mean, the Career Center's doing a $50 million expansion now. But the thing is, that's shared by how many different school districts. So it's not a big hit to us. It's a small hit because it's divided out, I don't know, how many different school districts go to the Career Center? 5 or 6? You know, we include West Homes in there and stuff like that too. So that's where I come out. And in my business, or not my business, I worked for the co-op. It was owned, the building, it's all owned by the farmers. And I have had a board of directors. I retired 4 years ago, but we had to do something or go out of business. So first thing we did, we bought the corner building where our office is now. And remember the party shop, and there was a truck, Nitrex truck company was in there, and the liquor store and all this stuff, and a lawnmower place. So we bought that building. Bought that building for $70,000, and everybody thought Roger lost his mind. Well, we put a lot of money in it since. And when I look at cost, this is just a lot of history, and I'm not trying to take too much time here, but I would look at a cost. If it's going to cost half of what a new building's cost, it's time to replace the building. Now, the equity of exception there. We were going to tear down the corner building. It's a poured concrete building with 12, 15-inch thick walls. Back in those days, just like the Bud School, there wasn't anything as such as insulation, so you just poured more concrete. You know, that's what you did. You poured concrete. That was your insulation. So we were going to, and we went to the state, and the same thing the school gets into. When you're out in the country and in your houses and in your farms, you basically don't have to do much. You just do it. You know, some townships have zoning, and it's pretty simple. You apply, they look at it, and they give you the okay or not the okay. But when you're doing commercial buildings, you've got inspections, unbelievable amount of inspections. So we were going to tear the office building down, and it's 50 by 150. So, okay, we're going to tear this down, and we started getting costs and all this thing, and the state says, wait a minute. You know, the state took property there to make a turn lane, so they took away from the equity, and there's 10 feet between our building and this, you know, they took it before my time, so they took it. So the state says, oh, if you're going to tear this down, you got to move 20 more feet away from the street. Guess what? We remodeled it. Because we didn't have any room on the other side. If you've been to the equity, there's not enough traffic room to get through there. And we have a lot of thousands of semi-loads a year come through there. But again, just bringing back that, so we remodeled all those buildings, and we remodeled the office a couple times since then. But it works. But we've insulated it, we've re-roofed it, we've re-sided it, we've re-plumbed it, we've done all things, because you have to bring it up to code. So that's what, I see Shane McCaskey, our head of maintenance here tonight, he knows all about fixing up old buildings. Shane and I had a discussion yesterday. We're pretty masters at fixing up old buildings. But again, then we were able to buy some property and we start building new buildings. And you've seen a lot of growth in the last 10, 15 years there. Otherwise, we were going to go out of business. We would have had to go out of business because we couldn't keep up with our farmers. So, a long story short, construction is 9.74 mils. Maintenance, you can't build without having some maintenance built in. I don't know if you have it, but our buildings that are under 10 years old, we don't put any money into them to speak of at all. If you build a new house, you hope you don't have to put much of any money in for 15 years, maybe 20. But, so that's built in there. So the school shouldn't have to come to you and say, hey, we need money for maintenance. So what amounts to the planning process here, during the first year, it's a planning process if we can get this approved. Then we start construction, which is a 2-year process. And then it's got to be built in stages because we can't, everybody says, well, why stages? Well, we got to have those 2 buildings that are going to come down for students. New Hope's very good, but I don't think they can handle 400 or 500 students in here for a year while we while we do this thing. So that's what it amounts to. So it's not. Okay, can we run 24 shifts, doing 24-hour shifts? But anyways, so it would be quicker if we had a site where we could just do it all at once. And the square footage is 124,000. We're keeping 2 buildings. The big gymnasium, we're going to have 3 gymnasiums, and then we'll still have what I call, when I was in the VOAG and the industrial and the STEM building now. So they're going to keep those, and it'll be built in the middle back there. And it's some cost estimates because we don't know if some of it will have to be 2 stories. Part of it will be 2 stories. We'd like to keep it 1 story, but the concern is how far can you go out with a 1 story compared to 2 story? So those are all things. So those are, everybody keeps saying, why is it keeps changing? It's changing a little bit, and if the levy's approved this fall, it's still going to change because you got to go out and do these types of things. But it's within the margin, not margin of error, but there's some wiggle room there. And the other thing is, if interest rates come down a little bit, this bonding could be cheaper. I bet more that we're going to have a decrease in interest rates going forward than more increases. I think we all would probably agree that. So that's what that involves here. But we're talking 124,000 square foot. Our enrollment's 800 and some students. And, everybody said, why did you merge with Hillsdale, this type of thing. Hillsdale, last year I looked the numbers up. Hillsdale graduated 58. We graduated 86. Now, our class was a little bigger last year from my understanding. The same thing in the Lucas School District. They graduated 40. So we are a little bigger school system, and my understanding is Hillsdale built over 200,000 square feet. We're looking at 124,000, so we've cut this thing down. So it's cut down and I'm not saying bare bones minimum, but it's cut down. There's no wasted space. So those are just some of the things we're talking about. We need to, figure out how we can do something. And I know, and I'm not here just to sell you on a levy. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think it's important, but we need to look at this thing, whether we want to spend $60 million or do we want to spend $55 million, $53 million to do it. So it's my cue. They came up to do.
You're out of pages.
I'm out of
You're
pages.
out of pages.
I'm done for this part.
I wanted to make sure that it was known that 60 millions for renovations was to bring the buildings to code. That's not making them pretty. That's not paint, that's not flooring, that's not insulation, that's not roofs. That is bringing them to code behind the walls. And I think that's the part we really need to know. We got to look at bringing it to code is gonna cost more than that's what this whole thing is about.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just talk. We had some people who have obviously reached out. They said, well, what condition are our schools in? They maybe don't have kids currently in our school district or don't know what our current conditions look like. So we've got some pictures here. Shane, interrupt me if I'm saying any of them wrong of what they are, but I think I've got them down. But the top left picture is where a broken steam pipe. We had an incident there just right before school started in the McMullen building. You'll see some, cracking and decaying there, rusting around our windows, our frames. The Bud School is celebrating its 100-year birthday this year, so we'll have some wrinkles at that age, but ours are getting really big in the Bud School. We have cracks here in our flooring, and the infamous top right picture is the sewage leak that was behind the 5th grade classroom wall in the Bud School last year. So we had a classroom that they had a smell, and it would get so strong they would move the kids out, and they would do some investigation, and then it would go away for a little bit, and then they would move the kids back in and think they were okay, and class was disrupted. And finally, Shane, you've narrowed down the corner, right, and started chiseling through cement walls, which is what the piping is run through and the brick around it, and found out that was the state of the pipe. So the smell that our kids were in there breathing and smelling was sewage. So that is the state of the Bud School. It has been fixed. I know somebody tagged Fox 8 in one of the videos, worried. We do fix things as they come up. So just want to put that out there too, that Shane and his crew are doing an excellent job of helping everything when it arises. So the next slide of pictures are some more of the same. We have some pipes, walls that you can see leaking coming down, that has gotten behind walls. It's leaking out of where the pipe goes, the stairwell pipe goes into the wall there. Our brand new gym floor in the Bud School that needed replaced due to some flooding, got replaced and then started buckling, a little bit different floor style, and the steam from the boiler system in the basement was coming up and penetrating through the floors and buckled the brand new Bud School floor. There's some wiring pictures there. Again, just some more cracks. And the bottom right picture, we have some cement scaffolding on the Bud School that falls down in chunks now. So that's obviously a safety concern and a concern to have with kids playing below it. And just old facilities, so the lockers are rusty, the pipes are covered for as much as you can to ventilate them and keep the heat in. But just, overall, not necessarily the pride that you want to feel with your school district. Shane's group has done everything they can, and you go into any school teacher's classroom and you will not see this because our educators are top-notch at covering this. But these are kind of the behind the scenes and the facility pictures.
I'm back.
You're back.
Okay. Next part we're talking about is the property tax. Oh, okay. Okay, got to step up. But I mentioned this about the cost of $60 million to upgrade the buildings. And again, that's to bring them up to code. What we did after the last levies, the voters approved 1.5 mills to permanent improvement. So that's been going through 2 cycles now, and we're in a 3rd cycle. So that's been going on for 11 years. But the problem is we're spending over $500,000. Jen mentioned that one year we spent $800,000 just to fix up buildings, you know. So that's just what we're kind of up against. But again, this was passed in 2013 after our levy failed in 2010. So we're 11 years into it, and when we had that levy for the first time, it was for 28 years. So once we get through the next 4 years, we're 15 years into what would have been a 28-year, and that point it was 8 mills the time we ran it back 20 years ago. The biggest thing that I take from that number is that we had 50% share then. The next time we ran it, it went down to 39% share from the state, and now it's down to 29% share. When you put it all together, and I didn't know this till I did some more research this week. I've read a lot on this thing, but the original schools were $38 million, and we were going to pay $19 million. The next time it went up. What it is now, and Tom might be correct me on this, but we're less square footage than we ran the first time. I'm pretty confident of that, because we were going to tear all the buildings down. So I'm pretty sure we're left. And the other thing is, I read some information on that. That included $500,000 for a new bus garage and maintenance building in that levy. So we're getting all that for $19 million. So the price of the building is doubled. Our cost is tripled in 20 years. So that's what we do when we talk about this. But these expenses, Shane was nice enough to give me a tour of the school buildings yesterday. And we were walking around the outside of the Bud School, and he says, you know, showed me up there, and I'm backing up because it's dangerous. It's just flat out dangerous. And then he showed me in the McMullen School, the floors, you know, look pretty good. And then you look down through there, and it's starting to sag between the floor, you know, the rafters that hold the floor up, that type of thing. And Shane showed me some of the floor tile that had been replaced, and found out the old floor tile still in there is made with asbestos. So somebody removed stuff years ago, probably didn't know that was asbestos in those things. So those are concerns, and you can't open these things up without taking all this asbestos out, and that is high dollar. So that's just some of the things we talked about there. And you know, like I say, that's concerns that we have. So $500,000 a year, that's not enough. And I'm not speaking for the Board of Education here or the superintendent, but I fixed up enough buildings in my career. $500,000 just doesn't go very far. I think personally it would take at least $1 million a year, and all we're going to do is go from a small Band-Aid to a bigger Band-Aid. Because we know, and it dumbfounds me that it can cost $60 million to fix up buildings. And the museum just ran a piece this week. The Bud School, or the high school, when it was built in 1964, was $1.5 million. But 1964 to 2024 is 10 times. We've had 10 times inflation since '64. So $1 then, it takes $10 to do it today. So that would be a $14 million building in today's dollars, just for grades 9 through 12. So, Carrie, next.
So Roger hit on this next FAQ a little bit already, but talking about the PI levy. So just a couple things to highlight here. We are spending well more than what that PI levy, you know, can account for. So that's one of the things that keeps being brought up. Well, what about the PI levy? What about the PI levy? We're using it. We're using it in its entirety, and then about 200,000 more of funding just to try to put some permanent improvements on the buildings that we do have. People have asked about what about that PI, you know, if the school levy that's currently on the ballot would pass. We have been told that the Board of Education would recommend to not renew the PI levy once it does expire. We'll need some of that funding through this. You know, you'd be building a new building. during part of that. And yes, that PI levy would still be collected during that time period to help with what we do have. But then upon its expiration, so that's 1.5 mils right now, that would not be collected once it expires.
So I kind of talked about this earlier, but why can't sales tax be used? We did look at this. In Ohio, schools are funded by property tax or income tax. We just wanted to make sure you guys know that we really did look at this. If we looked at income tax, which I know a lot of people that are frustrated because it's property tax and they, renters and all that, and why does it have to be property tax? If we went with just income tax, it actually is a higher interest rate and they give us a lower number of years we have to pay it back. So it's actually going to cost us more. So that is one of the reasons why we had to look at the property tax versus income tax, because we really we wanted to look at all the options. The length of the term is shorter and interest rates are higher for income tax. So we just wanted you guys to be aware of that.
So I already hit on this next FAQ in my ramblings about buildings earlier, but we've already talked that we are really taking our time to put in great materials from the beginning, and that we have that 0.5 mil maintenance levy built in. So we really do have a plan to hopefully really keep costs down in the future and build the building right so that we don't have to keep investing in it. What do you want me to say?
I didn't know what terrazzo flooring was, and I just wanted to go over that. The Bud School has terrazzo flooring. It's that poured, that has like the little metal pieces and everything's poured in place. If you've walked through the CE Bud, that's like the only floor that's still doing really well compared to McMullen or high school. The terrazzo floors are built to last. They're 100 years old and they look great. So we were looking at metal roof and terrazzo floors. Those are high traffic areas. That's why I didn't know what they were, so I just wanted you guys to be aware of what they were. So how is the district being fiscally responsible? Well, we kind of touched on some of this, but reducing the square footage and maintaining what's absolutely necessary in the plan. We are asking for less square footage than Hillsdale. Hillsdale built a very large school for what they need, and we're trying to be a lot more fiscally responsible with our square footage. We also wanted to make sure you guys knew that the district is putting in a little over $2 million in a 070 account to help with the construction, and also we wanted you guys to know that they are definitely reviewing all of the staffing and operations and all that. I do know that they've already, I think I wrote it down, they have been looking at all the staffing and all the positions at this school system for the last year, and I know that Jen just wrote it down, and I wrote it down. They have really looked at, since Jen has taken over as superintendent, like what the actual needs of staffing. So since Jen's been there, she's eliminated 1 administrator, 3 teachers, 1 contracted service person, and 1 staff person. So she's eliminated like 6 positions since she's been in the position. So she's really looking at the whole picture and saying, hey, let's be fiscally responsible. Do we really need these people? And what I want to say about that is, if you bring 3 buildings together to 1, over a period of time, there could be a minimization of some of the staffing. You don't need maybe 3 sets of administrators. That's stuff they can look at in the future, and through attrition, maybe get through some of the staff. We don't need as many maintenance people or whatever. So operationally, they're gonna look at that every year. I'm not saying we're getting rid of jobs, but I just want you guys to know that they're really looking at the operations portion of it to make sure that if you're in 1 building, it does cost less, because you don't need as many people, because you need 3 sets of everything if you have 3 buildings, right? So they're definitely doing a staff analysis even as we speak. They keep looking at different grants to offset. I know that I've heard that the superintendent's been trying to talk to some rich people to try to get some money into our pockets and write some grants, but that's not been really working for us yet. So, but I know that those are all things that we're really looking for. So let's go on. I think this is the same thing. Just want to also go back to the plan. If you guys don't know what the plan looks like, we have out there printed the master's facility plan, which is what the community voted on. So if you don't know the high school layout, I know she went over buildings 2 and 4, those are the the outside edges, those would remain, and they would build over 1 and 3, and then that like soccer band practice area behind and the softball field, that would be the building. So I just wanted you to kind of visualize that in your head a little bit, because it didn't really make sense in my head at first. I think this is, we spent a lot of time with the auditor, so Roger's gonna talk about the auditor.
Okay, we as a committee met with the Ashland County Auditor and had some questions concerned. And we were getting comments that our real estate taxes were going up 3 and 4, 5 times. So if you called in, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but if you called into the Ashland County Auditor's office, there was some miscommunication. And we were approached by people and saying their taxes were doubling and tripling. Just to give you an idea, and mills is a whole new thing to talk about, but our current millage is like 36.5 mills. So if you add 10 to 36, that makes it 46. That's about a 25% increase. So we're getting these people saying our taxes are doubling or tripling. One of them was 5 times what they're paying, what they're paying. So we called the auditor right away, and she was gracious enough to sit down, and the treasurer both. We spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 of us up there one day. And we said, this can't be. It's just not mathematical possible. So, so we had all done our taxes the way we were told to try to figure this out, and we all hadn't figured out. And so we asked the auditor in Ashland County to figure those out. So we went right to the computer, figured them out. And there were some discrepancies, not huge though. And so this person had called me and said their taxes on their farm, 172-acre farm, right now they're $4,600 a year. In older buildings, that type of thing, they get the CAUV, which is a whole nother ballgame we'll talk about at another time. It's a reduction for farmers that came in 1974, so it's been active for 50 years. It reduces it dramatically for land if you're farming, So ended up, we went through this, and this person had called in, and their taxes on their 170-acre farm were now $4,600 a year. They were told that it would be another $5,600 on top of it. Well, I do a lot of math in my business. I'm retired now, but I still do a lot of math. But it's just not possible. So this person said it was okay to use her property to do that. So we took it to the auditor and said, okay, calculate this. And she calculated. The $5,600 didn't take into account the CAUV, and it took the total property, which was $1.5 million valuation. And so, Cindy Funk, our auditor, and she's a good auditor, don't misunderstand me here, but she calculated it, and she said, well, this tax will go up $1,195. And we just about a year instead of $5,600. So if you called in and got a valuation before middle of August, I'm not saying it's wrong, but if you had CAUV land, it may have been wrong, and it's since been corrected. Somebody was not figuring something right. So instead of going from $4,600 to over $10,000, they're going from $4,600 to $5,700 total. Well, that's a lot easier to swallow. So that's where we're running it. We do have on our website for lpschools.com, it's calculators in there. You can pull up your stuff on the auditor's Ashland County Auditor. Holmes County has got a beautiful setup. It figures it for you. If you're in Holmes County, you can pull up your property and it tells you exactly how much the 9.74 mils is going to add and the half a mil to the penny. And it'll take you 2 minutes. All you got to do is go on the site, put in your name, it'll come up, and you just keep scrolling down, and it's got it there. We tried to see if Ashland County could do that, and they use a different software. Theirs is not able to do that. So we've had a big problem here that people are getting taxed 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times. It's not possible. If we have any algebra teachers in the audience here, 36 to 46 is not double, triple. In that case, the millage would have to go from 36 to 150. I don't know what 150 mils is. Anyways. So instead, we're not going to spend any more time on this, but we can help you figure it. And I figured probably before we had this calculator, probably figured 250 to 300 parcels. So I'm an expert at figuring it. But I always say, now take it to the auditor, call them, and reconfirm, because I don't want to be the one that gets thrown under the bus down the road because your taxes went up $10 more when I figured. And I've made mistakes on some too, but I always run them through twice. But go to 4lpschools.com. There's a calculator. Pick up the phone and call the auditor. They work for us. Let them figure it for you. That's the best thing to do. So that's just what and there's different formulas there. There's different things with CAUV, without CAUV. If you live in town and just have a house and a lot, it's it's 98 cents a day. I just round off to $1. If your property market value, and market value is, if your market value is $100,000, that's what the auditor's telling you it's probably worth. Well, hopefully they're worth more than that, a lot of those. But if it's $100,000, it's $1 a day. If it's a $200,000 house, it's $2 a day. $300, $3 a day. If you live in town and got a $500,000 house, you're going to pay $5 a day more in taxes for a whole new school system, whole new school. So now, if you have CAUV land, come see me afterwards. I got some handouts on that. It's a lot, totally different calculation, totally different. And what was happening, it was being figured just like you had a house. It wasn't taken into value any CAUV. CAUV means current agricultural use value. It's on the land only. The farmers don't get any break on buildings, just like they pay tax on buildings, just like every single other person in here. Where they get the break is on the land. So that's a whole number. We're going to have a meeting on that for the farm group here, hopefully later this month. We're putting that together as we speak, because there is a lot of misunderstanding out there about that. Because most of the farmland now that got reappraised this time is around anywhere from and most of them around $8,000 an acre, but they aren't paying taxes on $8,000 an acre. So that's what we got as far as the calculators. We're going to open it up for questions here, I believe. So we'll turn it back to these ladies. We'll go from there.
Did you have one of your notes back there? Yep, you good? Okay.
I'm good.
You good? Okay. All right. I know people don't like to talk and they don't like to come up for questions, but we would like to open it up. Obviously, this is a cordial conversation. We would appreciate the information. Jerry, Joe, because we live in Loudonville, I know people's names. Do you want to come up here so everybody can hear your question? Yeah, there's like a microphone right there.
Come on, Jerry.
We'll try to answer them.
Well, if we don't, right there. You just walk right by it.
I just have like a couple concerns I want to ask you guys about. Like, all the kids in school will have to walk and cross a state route to get to the new school. I mean, what are we going to do about that
Are you talking?
when they build the new school?
So the new schools actually would be built on top of buildings 1 and 3, so it would literally be in this. Are you talking about the
I'm
younger kids?
talking about all the elementary kids and stuff like
So
that.
it's all in the same building, and it's all.
But they'll all have to walk there from their homes.
From their homes to this.
Oh.
To
Yeah.
and from school.
That is obviously something that we will have
You're
to
talking
deal with.
hundreds of kids crossing State Route 39.
I think it could be something that we work with the community on, with our village counselor. So council of, do we want to get possibly the light back there? Or do we provide crosswalk? Right now, we have Bud students who do crosswalk every morning at the McMullen School, and that's not a state route, but it is, there's a lot of traffic because of drop-off. So do we need to do crosswalk people at that corner? What it would take. So those are definitely problems that do need solved, but I think our community is more than capable of solving and providing for that. We have police officers, we have our resource officers right now that are between McMullen and Bud. They're gonna be a resource officer that's gonna be available, and everybody's gonna be at one building then instead, which is nice, because we pull up some days and he's at Bud. Pull up other days and he's at McMullen. He's never at every school at once, but, there's a resource right there also. So I definitely think that we can, problem solve that. It is nice having the high school where it is, because it's off of a main road. So like as they're doing activities, like right now Bud isn't, Bud is on a state route also. So it's something that we already deal with now, and we just need to be safe for our community and problem solve it. Our Safety Town is awesome. I'll just give a plug out there for our McMullen Parents Association that puts that on every year. All of our kindergartners go through it, that they sign up, and it's awesome.
And the other concern, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I'm sure they would look at like bus routes, and if they need to put a bus stop over on that side, I'm assuming they would look at
She's
that.
talking
as-
about walkers, though.
Yeah, for the walkers, or maybe if they're far away, they could pick them up. I think that's something that the bus garage would have to work with the school and the village council on.
Well, my other concern was, my son's a teacher, and he's in a new school. And he works special ed, and he has kids that are developmentally disabled. And he said there's no changing room for them. Is that something that's gonna be planned in the new school for children that wear diapers?
I'm gonna note it because the plan isn't fully laid out yet. So a big portion of this, Monica's raising her hand. I'll let her actually talk first, but.
So a special education room will have a restroom in there, a shower, it's built into those. So when we did this program of requirements that you referenced, all of those additional spaces in the building, a lot of it went to special education, as you mentioned, OT, PT, all of those spaces. So yes, in the special ed rooms there are, it's a room that does have those spaces.
Okay, so it's like somewhere where they can lay them down and do it.
Yes, it's
Because I was told by one person that in their school, they had to actually lay the kid down on the ground. And that's not right.
That would be us now.
Okay.
So it's private as well. You don't want to have somebody
No, you don't.
take care of their needs down the hall.
Right.
So same thing with kindergarten rooms. They have their own little potties, little sinks in there as well. All right, that's part of it.
Okay, thank you.
So going forward, they asked if you, speak in the microphone, because the live stream, people can't hear it. Okay, that's it.
But it would be in the plan, Monica said, so for all those on live stream, and we currently do not have that at our current schools, so that's good to know, Monica, thank you.
Go ahead, Rob.
I thought you were kicking us out.
Just
We
a
went
quick
over time.
comment and then a question. So my comment is 14 years ago when we first came to Loudonville, we loved the town, we loved the people, and everywhere we have lived before here had new state-of-the-art schools. And I remember when we drove by the high school and my wife said, "What is that?" And the people who were giving us the tour said, "Oh, it's our high school." And we've lived here for 13 years now, and we love our educators. We think we have a great education, but our school facilities caused us to seriously consider whether we wanted to move here or not. And I just think that's worth noting. Like for people who've always lived here, you're like, well, it's what our schools have been. But for people who are considering where they're going to move to, if we want our village to be an option, I think our schools are a big indicator whether people will or will not choose to live here. My question is this. So for whatever reason, every one of our children, when they get to the 6th grade, seem to have like a major catastrophic thing happen. So like our oldest had a knee spontaneously dislocate, and he had to get around for a number of weeks as his ligaments tightened and things like that. So our 10-year-old, who's in 6th grade this year, had a fire evacuation drill just a few days into school and broke his ankle. So now, in fairness to him, I just want to be fully honest, he's super excited about getting 2 extra weeks of summer vacation. But the reason that's happening is because, like, if he could go to school and be in a wheelchair, he would be just fine and he would be in school every day, but he doesn't have that option. There's no real good way to get up to the 3rd floor, of the Bud School. So my question is, like, with a new building, what kind of ADA compliance are we gonna have? Like, how much easier is that gonna be for our students, who have some of those maybe issues ongoing, or for kids who just had an injury and would like to go to school but aren't able to currently?
Yeah. Monica's trained us, no. So the new school would be ADA compliant. We have a lot of plans built in there. It's really important to the task force. We talked about it on, what are our priorities, and we talked about safety, and we talked about ADA compliance, and that was like the extra corridors, things like that. We've talked about if we do have a second floor, because there's a plan that could have a second floor if we run out of space, an elevator, the ramps, things like that. But we want to keep it as much as possible to one level also, and also make sure we have those widened hallways and doorways and things like that, because it's so important. We have a couple kids right now in our Bud School who take that horrible chair. I don't know what else I'm sure it has a name, whatever tool that is, and and so it's our school, we call the Bud School the labyrinth of stairwells, if you've ever been in it. It's just a maze of stairwells. It's not, I know why he's not at school right now, to defend him. It would just be very hard. So yes, that would be covered in a new school.
Just one comment. Everything's got to be built to ADA standards now. We built a new warehouse 6-7 years ago at the Equity, and we had 12 inspections for a warehouse. So it'll be done right.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot more questions out there. All right, come on, Eric.
Yeah, if you think about cost increase and you've looked for a house or anything in the past 3 years, you said, I'll wait for better prices, right? And we know that doesn't happen. We have remorse from 2010, 2000, you name it. But my question is there a % increase the state has guidance on if you don't do it now? If we do it in a year from now, is there a % there to say you should plan for this?
I feel like I just asked this question. Do we want Monica's really smart version of this question? Yes.
Yes, please.
I will come to the microphone. So every year, the costs go up in April. There's what's called a construction cost update. So costs go up. I can't remember what I quoted you. It's usually around 5% is what we
That's what
have
you
looked
quoted
at.
us,
Yes.
yeah.
But, last year it was a little over 7%. The year before was around 3.5%. Before that it was 17.27%. So it depends on what's going on, but it does go up quite a bit. Does that answer your question? Yes. And then I did look up, to the first question about special education. So there is a resource room and this small self-contained room, and then it talks about what kind of disabilities and special education impairments, and it does have the restrooms and the shower that's included in there. So I know that there was a lot of thought that went through an extra space that was added to the program of requirements for the special ed.
Thank you. I was gonna say, it was quoted to us, like, every year we don't pass this, it could go approximately, I wanna say approximately, it's gonna cost us about $5 million every year.
Any other questions?
How long does this levy last?
Okay.
Say the question to the online people.
How many years does the levy last? 37. And 20 years ago, it was 28. So that's kind of what I said too.
Roger said, Georgiana.
Well, it's, but yeah, and it's part of it is to keep the payments a little lower so we can hopefully afford this thing. And I think the biggest thing is, yeah, it's a fixed rate. The best way to explain, it's not subject to reappraisal, right? This is different than some of our other millage that the school has. We all just got hammered with a 25% reappraisal. This levy's about a yeah, we know. This levy's about a 25 to 27%. Yes, it's a huge, but it's not gonna go, if we don't pass a levy, the reappraisal's not going away. It's here. But the best way that I explain it, if you have a 30-year mortgage and your payments, just rounding it off, if it's $1,000 a month, 30 years from now, if you're still living there, it's $1,000 a month. That's what this is. It is not. And I stuck my neck out, and we've had this discussion many, because everybody thinks, well, we're gonna pass this thing, and before it's even built, we're gonna get reappraised. Reappraisals are every 3 years. Yes, the school got almost $1 million fund from the reappraisal. Now, the other part of it is, and most people don't understand this, is they say, my taxes are $4,000 a year. Can't the school live on $4,000 a year? In my particular case, 61% of my total taxes go to the school. The other 39% go to 9 different entities in Ashland County and Green Township. So whatever your taxes are, it doesn't all go to school. Yes, a bigger portion does than anything else, but that's what I've heard too. But it is it's a 37-year mortgage. And yes, $53 million, I think the number is $57 million roughly of interest. But if you look at your 30-year mortgage, it does the same thing. And like a 30-year mortgage, up front, the first 5 years, your principal hardly goes down. You get halfway into it, all of a sudden, and then at the end, you're paying almost all principal. It's called amortization. So this is not. And if it does, then you guys are going to hang me for this. But it is not subject to reappraisal. It's not. And the permanent improvement that we have, the 1.5 mils, that is the same way. And it can't be used for salaries, anything else other than permanent improvement. This can't be used for anything else other than facilities. So, and we talked to the auditor about that, and we reissued this thing again, redid it, the 1.5 mils that we just approved last year that generates the almost 300,000. And what that amounts to is, we asked the auditor, that is being collected now at 0.94 mils because valuations went up and we only can draw $297,000 a year. That is because your values have gone up in property. It's now under a mil. And I said, well, why do we keep running it for renewal of this 1.5? Because that was what it was originally at, 1.5. So it's kind of a misnomer. I didn't realize this. It's kind of a misnomer. It's not 1.5 mils. It's actually under a mil now. So, any other questions?
Well, I'm used to using the mic, so yeah.
You're used
You
to
can't give a pastor a microphone, right? So like Rob, I have a couple comments and then a question. First comment is when my wife and I moved here almost 27 years ago, we didn't have children in the school system at the time. But we've had 3 boys come through the school system and they've all moved away for various reasons. But I know our middle son, Nick, who is in Medina, married, and one of the major things they looked at when they chose where they were going to live, start their careers, was the school system. And I do remember reading an article about the Bud School, and it may have been a number of years ago, that the new addition was put on in 1948, as Rob said, the new addition. It's older than many of us here.
It's even older than me.
I wasn't going there. So I think it's important that we consider that. That being said, what you've mentioned about being fiscally responsible, I certainly appreciate, as I wear that hat here. I certainly appreciate being spacious responsible in terms of square footage. However, if we're wanting to do this not just for our current community, but potentially inviting new people to move into our community, have we factored in any growth into the size of that space? Is there any square footage that is, like, are we going to max out as soon as we build this building?
I feel like that's a Monica question. Sorry.
I'll see if she has the same answer I would give.
Yeah, we'll see.
So OFCC has a student per, for the size, 25 students per classroom. And that's where, when you talked before about how, especially in the elementary levels, that you wanted to have a little bit lower, fewer students per student. So, you know, space-wise, you would have space to grow into that. I think having building 4 is another opportunity to, where the gym is, that you would have that space for overflow. The design hasn't been determined at all, but there is that always in the back of the mind. Can you know, is there an opportunity to add on a wing maybe for academics, or is the mechanical systems going to be able to support that? So when we're talking through design, those can certainly be determined. Okay.
Right, thank you.
I was going to say, go ahead, Shane.
I don't really have a question for you. I just wanted to answer a question that was asked earlier about kids walking and crossing State
Can you
Route 39.
get a little closer to the microphone?
Oh, I got a cold too, so
We
I'm
want to make sure
sorry.
they hear you online.
Okay,
Don't touch
I just wanted to kind of help answer your question about children walking to new facilities and crossing State Route 39. No, I'm too close. Oh, so what, we provide town stops for transportation too. So it's like we shuttle high school kids from the Bud School that are walking to that area. They shuttle from the Bud School now. Anywhere where you'd have to cross a state route, we do offer transportation. So we would have town stops for all kids, unless they wanted to walk, they could, but they wouldn't be expected to walk as small children. So I just wanted to add that in case that answers your question.
Thank you, Shane.
I can't answer that. I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think so at this time, because we also have parents that drive their students. We have students that do opt to walk anyway. And we do pick up quite a few students. If we look at our population, I don't think it would add buses. I think we would just have more town stops, which is much quicker than going out in the country packing up all the stops as you're coming in to shuttle kids across town. So I don't know if that helps answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. You probably got me off the hook saying the village will figure it out. Well,
Okay, so I'm just out of curiosity, what happens if the levy doesn't pass?
that is something that we would have to figure out going forward, how we continue to maintain our current buildings. I don't want to get into there's a lot of talk. You'll hear the bad C word, consolidation, that's, online and things like that. We really don't want to put fear out there. We have a good district that is pretty smart with our money. I don't think we're looking at that quite yet. It depends on how it keeps going. So I think we would kind of come up with a new plan, and we will probably come back in the spring and ask to go back on the ballot, because that's our option, truly. It's hard times right now. I mean, everything is expensive. Everything's going up. We bought chickens 2 years ago just to not buy $8 eggs at the grocery store, and we recognize that. I think we're just there. This is the option, unless we do want to talk about, okay, now what happens? And if we get down the road and can't pass something like this, yeah, then maybe that big C word comes out, which we don't want. This is my personal belief, so I won't speak for the levy committee on this, but you lose your schools, you lose your town. I mean, you do. You lose the traffic coming into it every single day for your businesses. We aren't all gonna go to one school. We won't go to Hillsdale all together as one big happy family. We'll be going to Hillsdale and Clear Fork and Danville and West Holmes, and we will be divided. Again, I don't wanna fear-monger that. I think that's down the road a bit. But our schools are old, and we can't keep doing. And at some point, as parents, we're gonna say, I'm not sending there anymore, because we feel it's unsafe, or because we wanna go get better education, technology. We missed 16 hours of school, and I'm grateful we did that first week, because when I volunteered in there for 1 hour a day, I was like, nope, can't wait to leave. And it wasn't on 90-degree days, but it's a different world. Safety's a different thing. Our kids on a high school campus going to different buildings every period. It's just different. You don't open the windows, you don't keep the doors open anymore for safety measures, air's not moving. I mean, we gotta do something. And really, we've got representatives here that don't have kids in our district, but you know what it does for your community. And it's our bloodline.
I was going to make one more comment about that. We are all going to have to pay taxes whether we want to or not. And if we do have to, the C word, at some point, consolidate at some point, we would have to pay whatever their taxes are. You don't get a choice. If you're in Hillsdale District, or you're in Danville District, or you get shipped to Ashland, or whatever that is, you don't get a choice on the taxes because that's what you are forced to do. So we have a choice now to do it now, and we can choose that tax rate, or we could potentially, I don't want to fearmonger just like Carrie, but we don't have the ability if we were to get broken up at some point, you get what you get. And I hate saying that.
I realize that you guys don't want to talk about consolidation, but Lucas wants to build a new school too. They can't afford it. It's been turned down different times. I mean, they're 15 minutes away from us, so is that a thought?
I'll talk about,
Could it be a thought?
yeah, the question about Lucas consolidation. Lucas, they graduated 40 last year on their website. Hillsdale graduated 58, Loudonville graduated 86. Okay, everybody says, why didn't we merge with Hillsdale? Consolidate, or Lucas, or whatever. Lucas Levy, I think, failed by 25 votes, I remember last year. They're in a struggle. Now, you say it's only 20 minutes to Lucas, but if you live at the southern end of our district, you double that. It's more, if you can get to Lucas in 20 minutes, you're doing pretty good. I live close to Hayesville, and it takes us 20 minutes to get to 71 at Lucas. So you got to realize, we go clear down to what was Roseland Campsite, our district. Yeah, south of Jellaway. Do you know how far it is to drive from Jellaway to Hillsdale High School? Or Lucas? Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying is. But the other thing is, and I've said this for a number of years, if we don't do something, it probably ought to be factioned off to 5 different school districts. Okay. Some of us in here, I was just a young kid when Loudonville and Perrysville merged in 1961. There's still hard feelings. I mean, I hate to say that, but there is. But what I don't think people realize, if you faction that off, that would have to be voted on at the same time by every school district for the merger. In every school district, if they divided our 900 students 4 ways, that's 220 students going 4 different. Nobody else around us can take 220 students without building more buildings. So what do we gain? If it's 20 miles to drive to Hillsdale and say that was what we would have done, and if you get 20 miles to the gallon, it's a gallon of gas each way. So that's what, $7 in gas, not to mention how much time. And if you really look at it, it's 50, 60 cents a mile to drive a car. So my thing is, if you live in a $100,000 house for $1 a day, you can't drive very far. But what if I'm just playing devil's advocate here, and I'm not speaking for the school board. I wouldn't run for the school board for any amount of money, I'll be honest with you. Because if we don't get this thing done, they've got some really hard decisions, and it's a no-win. They got a target on their back. But what I'm saying is people don't realize. So what if you did that and say, we're going to merge with 3 or 4 other schools? We'd have to run that, Tom, right, all at one time. So what if 2 of them agreed to merge with us and 2 of them says no? You got to start all over again. And every side said, Hillsdale's got a new school. It's bigger than what they need. They can't hold more students than what they already have. If I was in Hillsdale District and you gave it to me now and say, let's look at a consolidation, I'd say, we got a school paid for, hopefully. There's a pipeline issue on the tax, that they're dealing with, and it's at the Ohio Supreme Court. So they may get a reduction in the amount of money they get. they're gonna have to deal with that, you know? And it's kind of hard to deal with it, I guess, after you got the school building built. You know, how you ask for money after the building's built, if they have to. And I don't know their finances. I don't know them all. But if I was a Hillsdale person right now, and we just opened our new school a year ago, why would I want to vote to put two districts together, and now we got to build another big building, and so it's going to be split? I wouldn't. I would not recommend anybody.
Inter-district open enrollment, they can accept now, they control the intake. They may have 4 seats available to 3rd or 4th grade, but they can control that intake. If you look at consolidation, you're gonna dump 250 kids in their lab, they're probably gonna go, we're not ready for that.
I wouldn't vote for it as a taxpayer, and I voted for every single
If I can
levy we
add,
did.
there's 609 school districts in this great state of Ohio. So there's a lot of pride at all of these school districts. So just in the past, before there were 613, I think, so there consolidation does occur. Doesn't occur very often for a variety of reasons. If I can go back to the question about what happens if this isn't successful on November 5th, because you locked in your master plan with OFCC, it's locked in or went into an agreement. It's locked in for 16 months. So there is opportunity to be back on the ballot in the spring and even into November of 25. What that means, though, is your budget is then locked in at the current numbers, so that cost update in April doesn't get added into your master plan, and you know, there's already, you know, some contingency built in, and you don't want to miss out on that contingency. Or if it's unsuccessful again, then you can think of the renovations. You've got $60 million to renovate, and, you know, those are options as well.
Well, the other part of it is, the superintendent has stated to us in a public meeting that if this would pass, they would recommend to drop that 1.5 mills off, which is actually 1 mill now. So that does take this 10.2 mills down to 9.2 in a sense. Now, we got to keep collecting that. Shane's got to keep these buildings going for the next 4 years. And the next 4 years expenditure is going to be throwing good money after bad no matter what we do. So that's, you know, part of what we're looking at too. So.
I just want to make a quick comment. I just want to say thank you. Your team is providing amazing information that people can make an informed decision. So in the amount of time, can't even imagine, because you have families, you have outside responsibilities, but we see your passion. So I just want to say yay, thank you. It's not a thankless job, because you are making a difference, and I really believe November is going to be a big thing for Loudonville, Perrysville communities. So thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. And I made this statement before. I can't think in my lifetime of a bigger single vote that we have in front of us. I don't know. Tom, you're about my age. I can't think of anything bigger that this community is looking at right now. I can't think of anything even close to this. And the last thing I'll say is LP School's website. We've got a really, really, really good superintendent. I've gotten to know her a lot in the last 10, 12 months. She came in August, and we started meetings in this in November. She barely had her feet on the ground. And she knows her stuff, and she's tough. She's a superintendent CEO, is what it amounts to. But the school put together information, and I don't think a lot of people understand. There was a court case how many years ago that school, but there was a lawsuit that Jen, we'd love to have Jen here tonight, but she can only give facts. If she leans towards, I know, but we're not employed by the school. Yeah. So, Doug, maybe you can explain there, or Monica, what that involves, why some of our teachers and some of our administrators are a little leery.
Sure. I have to really lean down to this. A few years ago, a school district near Dayton, Ohio, Bellbrook City Schools, they did some actions. The school district themselves used language that advocated for the passing of a levy. The auditor of state, Keith Faber, says school districts cannot, by law in Ohio, they cannot advocate for or against levies. So they actually, the superintendent and others, they had issues with the state. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough to call the superintendent in and cause major change and ripples throughout the state. So that is why we don't have Jen here with us tonight, because the auditor of state about a little over a year ago put out a very detailed list of guidelines and best practices on what school districts can and cannot do. So Monica and Tim and I from Garmin Miller, we put a lot of time into this. When we first met with the levy committee, we had to really walk through, what we can and cannot do. So if you see Jen speaking at, for an example, a Rotary meeting about the schools, she can absolutely share factual, verifiable facts. She can, okay, how much is the millage? Approximate cost, what would the square footage be? Those are all, you can find those in board meetings, and those are verifiable numbers. What she cannot do is use language like, I really hope this passes because, and then she's influencing. She can say, hey, go vote. Go vote. Not how to vote, go vote. So that is why the school district is not here, and the volunteer levy committee is. Monica, is that all right? Okay. Any other questions on that?
Like I say,
Okay.
that's probably the biggest thing. It's like, here we are, the CEO of our company can't recommend, or, it's kind of ridiculous, but that's kind of where we're at today. But what I started to say is go to the LP Schools website. There's an hour and 15-minute video, and there's a part in there where I'm in, so you can skip over that part if you want. But go to that. It's going to be 85 degrees the next 5 days. So if you don't have a computer in your home or don't have air conditioning, go to the public library, not the high school library. Go to the public library and listen to that. It'll answer. I've watched it twice now, and I've been educated. I just watched it again last night, so I'm prepared for this meeting. It's an hour and 15 minutes, but I said, there's nobody that's on social media for an hour and 15 minutes in a day, is there? But I'm saying is, watch it in 2 settings. Go in and watch part of it tomorrow afternoon, watch it, because we have an issue with a lot of the older people in our community, and we're going to be hitting the shopper with more ads. It's amazing how many people have no social media. None. And a lot of them are my age. And if it wouldn't be for my wife and working, I probably wouldn't be on social media either. But in my business, we put in our first computers in 1980.
We've introduced you to a lot of things.
They have. But it's an hour and 15 minutes. It'll answer 95% of the questions that these 4 people are answering online every day. It's all there. It goes what we did, but in more detail. There's pictures, there's videos, there's a number of interviews, that type of thing. Please, please, please tell your parents, your grandparents, your friends. If you're going to vote on something, just be informed. And I understand some people can't afford it, and I understand that. I understand that. If I'm waiting to get my Social Security check to go buy my medications, I can't vote for it. You just can't. And I understand that. I'm not holding that against anybody. Yeah.
First of all, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. It's been very informative for me and my husband. Second of all, part of the new building area, it takes over what is the varsity field. And then there's also a varsity field for soccer at the McMullen School. What's gonna happen to those fields, and where are they gonna go? And where are these kids gonna play their games at?
So part of the plan is purchasing part of the land behind it. It's been secured. We haven't purchased anything, but we have it secured behind it that if we want to move things, we could, because the school would require some of that land. But we would also move the softball field down to the football practice field, and the practice field would move down too. I think there's like a whole plan there. The soccer field is something that's in place. If they were to purchase the entire amount of land, that could be a possibility to put the McMullen soccer field over there. But that's something that they're not discussing yet until it would actually happen.
Is the purchase of that land included in the cost for the new school?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Roger.
This does not include the purchase of the land at this point in time.
Okay.
It includes moving those fields. It's included in this money. We're trying to figure out,
How to purchase
we're
the land.
trying to figure out. We can't speak for the board.
We can't purchase the land.
Yeah, but it is not in this $53.5 million.
To purchase the land?
It is not in this figure,
Okay.
but I for one feel we need to purchase, that field behind us. But it just depends on what the footprint ends up being. And this building wouldn't go into that field, but you gotta get trucks into the back of the building for food deliveries, all these kind of stuff. So there's some concern. This does not include that in this plan, but it very well could be, and there has been discussion, we were told, with the landowner about the possibility of purchasing that land.
Okay.
But
Thank
that's not in this levy. So,
But it does include invading the Bud and McMullen, but that could be something that at some point, if they decide that someone wants to purchase the Bud School or McMullen School for like $1 or something, and they wouldn't have to abate and make that, tear it down and all that, the purchase of all this includes that price, but that could be taken out if somebody were to, say, buy the Bud School or McMullen or whatever, if we donate it or something. Who knows? There's a lot of unknowns right now.
there is money in this plan to tear down the buildings. If we don't have to, that's money that could be used for other things. So, yeah, just so we get this straight, that it is not in the $53.5 million to purchase land, and there's been no decision that I know of to do that, but it has been thoroughly discussed, I think. So that was one of the big questions we had right from the start, too. That's a good question, thank you. Any other questions? Want to thank New Hope.
Thank you.
Appreciate this, because it's hard to find a place.
So hi, I'm going to ask a question just because I feel like we're not far enough along to know, but what is our utility cost going to be? And I only ask this because I know of neighboring school districts that didn't plan for the increase for having HVAC and all these other things where they didn't plan for the exorbitant cost of electricity. And I know that the way that things are going, our costs for electricity are going to go up. The demand's high, we're not producing as much as we were, so how are we going to buffer that? Or how are we figuring that out?
Good question.
If you can tell me what my electric bill is going to be next year, I'd like you to get that in writing for me. But no, just paying a little. Yes, we're going to have more electric bill. We've talked to the superintendent about this, but we're not going to air condition these buildings 12 months out of the year.
2 months.
Probably 2 months, a month in the fall and a month in the spring, I would say. If they run air conditioning, keep those buildings 70 degrees all summer long, I'm going to be a mad voter.
So that was something that Hillsdale didn't factor. They planned on shutting it off in the summer and they were not able to do so.
Well, I don't know what Hillsdale's doing, and I'm not sure how you're privy to that information, but if you
Because I'm
are,
right on the verge, as you know, of that district. I have good friends and family that go to that district and I have people in this district. So I'm trying to safeguard our space.
Monica.
I guess my thing is there too. Okay, we're heating 6 old buildings with very little insulation. If we aren't gonna save a huge amount of gas in the summer, or the winter time when we're heating those buildings with all the insulation stuff we have, I for one would, I would, this is just my guess, we're gonna have an increased electric, but we should be way less on gas. So I don't know, if I was putting this budget together for me, I would say one hopefully would offset the other. But I don't know that for a
Yeah,
fact.
I think that's a great question. I think you will get some savings. However, you are going to be running more electricity for air exchanges. You're getting fresh air the whole time throughout the throughout the 12 months. So I think we have a cost per square foot that we see where there's what the average utility costs are. I think it would be good to get some information, and maybe we do some legwork, and maybe then we can share it on social media or somewhere of maybe what utility costs the district has been seeing, so we can maybe get that average and then compare. But usually if it's a 1-to-1, you tear one building down and you have a new building, your new building is probably going to be more expensive because of those costs. But tearing down several buildings and not having the insulation that, or having better insulation so that you might have some savings there, or it might be about the same.
Yep. Thank
That
you.
was a good question.
Good question.
Some more information.
So if we do decide that we need to purchase this property, is that gonna come back on the taxpayers too?
No,
That's gonna be funded?
that's my feeling. I'm
That's
not
your
speaking
feeling.
for the board,
Also, keep in mind, when you demolish the McMullen and Budd, you're gonna have vacant land lots there you can sell. If you offset the purchase of the new property at the high school. So
I've also heard there's a couple organizations that said they might help with that too. So there's some talks out there in the community. So we can't, we're not gonna say, oh yeah, so-and-so is gonna buy it, but there's been some community involved areas that have said they would look at purchasing or helping with something. So that has been thoroughly discussed, I promise on that.
What's the lot of the land? How much land is it? What's the acreage on the land back there?
35 acres is
35
the whole,
acres.
the whole.
And what's the
farm.
average cost right now for prime farmland?
I think it's
8 to 10, so
8 to 10,000.
$350,000 would be the maximum you would
But
expect.
the other part of it is a farm sold right outside, it was the Chuck Mushler farm 4 years ago, and I went to the sale, and that's Holmes County, and Holmes County's moving this way. That sold for $11,300 an acre then.
Right.
Most land around here is selling from $8,000 to $15,000 an acre. It's unbelievable, but it's happening because people are moving into this area. And I know a lot of people say we've lost a lot of industry. Yes, we have, like every other small town in the whole United States. But just go to McKay and do a 2-mile circle around McKay and look at all the new building that's going up there with the Amish, all their buildings. So,
It won't be
you know,
taxpayer money, we can agree, but if it was me and it's $400,000 behind there to secure, I mean, that seems like a very reasonable investment.
well, in the farming community, if the land comes up beside you, there's usually only once in a generation, or several generations, you got a chance to buy it.
Sure.
Monica?
It's $1.25 per square foot that we use for cost of utilities. So the land, there's, what'd you say, 35 acres?
35 acres.
So that's not, and it's quite hilly, so there's a lot of excavation.
Yeah.
So when we looked at laying out the building, we factored it in, but we also said maybe you may not need all of it for the building. If you can use 10 acres here, and maybe you do need to buy the rest, do you have to buy the rest? So there's some conversations that the administration's been having with that landowner. So it's not all needed. It's just be nice to have it for the green space, for the fields, for the view, but you don't need to have it all.
So one last thing that I'd like to ask. Since the median income for Loudonville Perrysville School is about $35,000 a year, I understand maybe an extra $500 a year may not seem like a big increase, but when we're already at a deficit, my personal increase, my total tax spend per month for what I own will be $824 a month for this. So that's why I'm involved, because it's gonna be drastic for me. I'm one of the special cases, I keep being told, because I live on a farm, I'm outside of town. But that's why I'm here, because it's certainly gonna impact me. That's a lot of money that I'm gonna have to spend to live in my house. So what are we going to do for those people that are gonna struggle as a community to help them make sure that they're not giving up their prescriptions or something else just so they don't have to lose their home?
Well, I don't know what we can do individually. I guess if you say yours is going up how much?
So right now I pay $577 a month. That's what I paid in '23 for my taxes. $577 a month. For the school, it's gonna go to $824 a month is gonna be my bill for the school tax. for
Is
me.
that just for one home, or is that for more than one home?
So I have 4 homes and outbuildings on my property. I have 89 acres total. So I'm not the average person. I understand that. But still, it's a large impact. You know, I'm sorry, but it is.
I understand where you're coming from. I understand.
So I'm worried, you know, again, I'm not the normal case, but I know many others that extra $500 is gonna hurt.
I understand that.
Which is why we're here
That's why we're here, and I guess me personally, I'd rather pay 10 mills. Yes, I'm sure nobody wants to pay anymore, but the figures I've kind of think, I'd rather pay 10 mills for brand new than pay 4 mills just to keep putting a bigger Band-Aid what we got. And if we fix all these buildings up, it's more than 10 mills, because 53.5 million is 10.24 mills. So if we got 60 million to fix the old buildings up, that in my mind's about 12 mills. And then we still have 60, 70, and 100-year-old buildings. If we kick the can down the road continually for another 20 years and limp by, what we've got then is we got 80, 90, and 120-year-old buildings. So I guess think of it that way. But I understand where you're coming from. It's tough. And the worst thing is, it all happened on top of reappraisal.
Oh yeah, reappraisal, insurance cost. I don't know about everybody else's insurance. Mine has doubled the past year. So, I mean, I've got to factor all that in. Not only just the cost of maintaining my property. You know, there's things that I didn't do this year because I didn't plan on my bills going up the way they did for tax purposes. And, you know, I wanted to get gravel. Well, that went out the window. So I just worry, again, I'm a different situation. I understand there's 4 homes on that property. They're not rentals, it's a family homestead.
But are you paying for all those yourself?
Yes, sir, I do.
So all the family members are living in 3 more houses and not paying
So
you
there's one
anything?
house currently that is not inhabited. It's being renovated because it's basically storage at this point in time. But yes, sir, I do pay the taxes for the property.
But I mean, you don't have any income from the family members that are renting?
We have farming income, yes. Yes,
No,
sir, I lease
no,
my
I meant,
farmland.
I'm talking about from the housing.
What we do is they help me maintain the property. That's what we're doing. So.
Sounds like they're putting all the burden on you.
Well, again, I'm the figurehead of the property. I'm the 3rd generation to take it over. I felt that I had to. I didn't have a choice. You know, that's been my home my entire life. I'm 40 years old. I've been in this community my entire life. And that's home. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Well, we're all with you there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I joined the workforce, you know, I went to college like everybody else in this community had to do. And, you know, I can't work in this community. I have to travel. I have to work outside of town. I commute 40 minutes a day one way, right? Like everybody else. So,
Molly
right.
goes to Gallup.
So, yeah, I'm still trying to be here. You know, that's
we
the best thing
appreciate
that we
that.
can do.
We appreciate
But I
that.
just want to make sure that we're planning for the unmentionables. This property, what's going to come down the road, because this is going to be a stretch for a lot of people, myself included, you know. That number, it goes up an awful lot. So I know I've been dragged through the mud about certain things, but I'm trying to play both sides and understand the full impact. And is it a matter of that we can stand up and have a voice as a community, say, hey, look, we do need this. Can we go to our legislators, start talking to our representatives? It's a broken system, not saying it needs to follow on our shoulders, but maybe we're the catalyst that gets it going, because this is going to be so impactful. Let's use it as a positive to go to Columbus and say, hey, we've got to make changes. Can we use these other sources? Can we not do this? Can we do that? You know, when you're limited to 2 roads and both of them are really rough.
I think I appreciate it, Jason, because that's what needs to happen here in Ohio. We're at a time point, like we said in the beginning, we're there. We can't change that by November, and the need is there now. But you're right. I will go down to Columbus with you as soon as this passes in November and throw all the extra time that we have and energy that we've done into this, because it does. We do need a change. And I think that we can do that, but we can't do it now, but we have the need. And not to get everyone in this room who knows me, I'm the emotional one. So if I tear up, I apologize. But our community needs this. Truly, our kids need this. Our educators need this. I believe this is whether Loudonville really exists as it is anymore. It's so important to do it now and not count that our government is going to come in and change something for us. And we have to take care of each other as a community. So I agree. I think there's going to be people struggling. We are blessed here in Loudonville. We have so many organizations that help with things. We have a caring pharmacy that I know personally helps people get drugs at a better cost that will even direct them elsewhere. We have an amazing Catholic Charities group. I'm missing like 100 organizations that exist here in Loudonville. The school board isn't gonna do it. We're not individually gonna do it, but we are blessed. And I think we will take care of each other, but we have to take care of each other. And this is part of it. Our schools start it. This starts where our kids grow. This is what they learn. This is where they learn kindness and friendship. And all of that is the bloodline that knows my tears the most in this room. It's so important that we do take care of each other. And I don't want to speak because I'm not the Board of Education. I'm not going to buy that land. And I haven't been in all the discussions. But again, another blessing, because those conversations have taken place and we have a family who says, you need my 10 acres? Okay, let's do a fair cost, and I'm there when you need it. We can't speak and tell you guys tonight that land's bought. It's not, and it's not our land to buy.
If I may.
Tim's interrupting me before I cry.
If I may. Yeah, you're welcome. Great question and a great point about the cost of land and what it would be worth. The school district does have that money set aside to purchase that property without going to the taxpayers. So I want to make that point.
I wasn't sure if we could say that. I was trying to hint. But honestly, guys, Loudonville, Perrysville, we're blessed. Now we got to get it done, and then we do. We keep putting our efforts into great changes, and we look out for each other. If you can, and you know somebody's struggling, we don't let them suffer. We've never done that in our community, and we're not going to start doing it. But there's a crack in my kids' school right now that goes the length of their floor. Like, I mean, we got good families here that are thinking, do I want to stay?
They're tripping over that crack.
You know, and so I think you got to do it. We got to do it as a community and continue to look out for each other after it, because we're not sides here. This is a community. And so what do you need? Okay. We're all in it together. We're all one. So, and I did that without crying, so.
One quick question. In 1997, the Supreme Court of Ohio said it's unconstitutional the way the schools are funded in Ohio. So that was 27 years ago. We ran our first levy 20 years ago. If it happens in the next 20 years, I'll be very thankful that they do something about it. And the thing is, what it all boils down to, you know, I watched a little bit of the debate last night, and I just couldn't watch the rest of it. But what's happened is everybody's so disgusted at the federal level and the state level that the only place they got to take it out on is local school boards, local town councils, all those types of things. That's just what it boils down to, and that's where we live today. So thank you. We've gone long enough. We weren't planning on going this long.
Thank you.
We thank you guys for staying. New Hope, thank you. Appreciate it. And please talk to your people about looking at that video. It's probably one of the biggest discussions we can do there. Thank you very much, everybody.